Welcome back to the channel for some more recent Star Citizen news highlights. Now, this week's Around the Verse was hosted by Eric Kyron Davis with Dave Haddock, and Phil Mellor gave us an update on the progress they're making on Squadron 42.
Now, first of all, Phil told us about the work they're doing on how weapons handle and focusing on recoil and general handling of the weapons. Now we can see them testing the bearing P8 here, and of course this is going to be very important as there's going to be a lot of FPS elements in Squadron 42. Now obviously AI is very important, and they've been working on how the AI take off and land on Idris, and general AI, how they handle combat as well. They've been working on what they call spacescaping, and basically this is the look of the Odin system which features in Squadron 42, and they've been focusing on various technologies to make nebula and other space anomalies. Of course, all these will flow through to the PU in the future. With this technology, they'll be able to create a very vast variety of spacescapes, from very aggressive spacescapes like the Coil to what we can see now, a very serene looking area of space. Looks amazing. We saw some sets they're actually working on for one of the landing locations in Squadron 42, a place called Chem Mine, and Phil told us about a place which he can't really name at the moment, but basically it's work being done on a scrap heap. So this looks very interesting. Also continuing to work on a variety of different Squadron 42 locations. So saw some ship emergency and distress states being worked on. It was nice to see one of these super large ships, and here's the Bengal carrier, and they've been working on the brigs for the Bengal carrier, so let's hope we don't all end up in the brig. Now, AI is tremendously important, as we all know, whether it's going to be flying ships in space or in combat in FPS, and here we see them actually working on a different variety of combat stances for the AI, and what they're doing is actually factoring in different abilities for the AI, whether they're good in combat or whether they're well, not so good, probably a bit like me. And obviously if the NPC AI is a military marine, they're going to be vastly superior to well, a bartender in wielding their weapons. Here's a look at a character played by John Rhys-Davies in Squadron 42, Graves, and some nice detail on his clothes here. Wouldn't mind his bomber jacket. Now we know that mining is coming into 3.2 with the Prospector, and the special feature in this week's Around the Verse was all about scanning. Now, the developers told us the system they're implementing for scanning. At first, it's only going to be usable for the mining mechanic for the Prospector, but eventually scanning will come to all ships as well. Everybody will need to scan objects and maybe other ships in space. Now basically the way scanning works is that you have a passive radar system which will be used for closer objects to well, to detect. But of course as space is vast, you will need something to probe the vast distances for objects worth mining, like asteroids. Now basically how this works is they're going to use a pinging system. So basically you will switch to a pinging mode to send out a pulse across the depths of space to pick up objects which may contain places for you to mine. The downside of this pinging system is that these pings will be able to be picked up ultimately in the future by other ships, so the location of your ship will be revealed. But for now they're only going to be used for mining, so basically that probably won't be a factor for now. Obviously it's still work in progress, but the entire feature was very interesting and well worth watching the full version yourselves.
In the ship shape segment, Gerard Huckleberry gave us an update on the progress they're making on the Aegis Eclipse, getting it flight ready for the upcoming 3.2 at the end of June.
We learnt some more about the Aegis Eclipse, which will be flyable in 3.2. Now the Aegis Eclipse is a dedicated bomber. It's a one-man ship and it has got stealth capabilities. Now it hasn't got much in the way of defensive armament, so if you're discovered you may have to rely on some fighter escorts to defend you, but hopefully you won't be discovered before you can deploy your payload of 3 size 9 torpedoes, and those ones are the same size as what's carried by the Retaliator. We did learn about some of the flight characteristics for the Aegis Eclipse, and they're actually working on a new flight mode for atmospheric flight for the Eclipse, but that will be ready for the future where the wings actually change their configuration. Now this ship will be able to operate off the Idris, and to do that you will actually have to go into landing mode to enable the ship's wings to fold up at the end, so it will be able to fit in the Idris. So you'll be able to do some potentially damaging bombing sorties off the Idris. Now of course its main weapons for the Aegis Eclipse are its 3 size 9 torpedoes, and the developers told us that there will be different types of torpedoes in the future, and these are deployed from a rotary launcher, so you will be able to choose what type of torpedo to fire in the future. And this rotary launcher is very much like the rotary bombing launcher mechanism used in the B-2 stealth bomber of today, in which obviously the Aegis Eclipse is actually gets its inspiration from. So this does look a very interesting ship, very sexy indeed, and it's one where I think it's going to tempt many people to pledge for when it's available for 3.2.
Well, that was a pretty interesting episode this week. I particularly liked the segment on scanning and mining. Can't wait to do the mining with that prospector. And that Aegis Eclipse is looking very good indeed. Well, that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And hopefully I'll see you all sometime out in the depths of space. Sometime in the future. Bye for now.